in 2021 for the month of August. How about that? There's always some sort of a special thing going on, and today our special thing is talking mules and donkey for the very last time in the month of August. My name is Dave, and this is Steve Edwards. Every single Wednesday, we get together to talk mules and donkey, and we are so glad that you are here hanging out with us. Steve, how has the last week been?
Oh, a little tough right now. My wife, she's in bed asleep, sick. She got that COVID monster bit her, and so she's doing next. Actually, she's doing really good. She only hits me twice a day now. Uh,
So we're on the up. Things are looking on the up and up out there at the ranch.
yeah, she knows she doing fine. Just she's eating good and good temperatures and this sort of thing. It's just that she can't talk much. She can't. All she does is coughing quite a bit. So, but she's doing fine. We'll do
Yeah.
fine.
Well, that's good. I know that you and I were talking last night. Last night we were messaging back and forth,
Yeah.
and I told you, I said, it kind of came up on us unexpectedly. My youngest, or not my youngest, my oldest, kind of started to have a fever and not feel very well, and then I started to not, feel great. So we got ourselves tested, and they all came back negative. So everyone here in the house got tested for COVID. Turns out it's just the old-fashioned cold, just the common cold. So if I excuse myself for a second today, it's because I'm just having a coughing fit. That's all. But we're not here to talk about COVID. We're not here to talk about coughing fits. We're here to talk about mules and donkeys. Of course, sometimes these mules and donkeys can cause you so much trouble that I'd rather have a cough than have to work with this mule out there. We don't want
Mm.
that. We want you to feel like you can get out there, gain the trust of your animal, get results in your training, and experience the pure joy of owning one of these amazing equines. And so that's what we're here to do today. So if this is the first time you've ever hung out with us, there's really only three things you need to know. Number one, we just want to know that you're here. We want to know that you're watching. So in the comment section, put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like. That's the very first thing. Steve and I, like I said, we were talking last night. We were messaging back and forth. Steve and I can talk to each other. Matter of fact, y'all can give Steve a call if you want, but we can talk all the time. This time here is set aside for you. So we want to know that you're here, and we want to know that you are with us. So put your name, what the weather's like, and where you're watching from. That would be great. The second thing is that you ask any and every question that you've got. And I think every now and again, we'll get a question that we have never answered before. Of course, this is our third or fourth year of doing this. So, we've answered a lot of questions. Every now and again, we'll get a new one. But for the most part, it's the same questions that we answer each time. And we're really happy to do so because if there's one thing that's true about these animals, it's that repetition, it's that tune-ups, it's that you're never going to be finished with them, right? You think you're
Mm-mm.
doing okay, but then all of a sudden something happens. You got to get out that come along rope and do a tune up. And so maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe next week, you've got to ask a question that was asked a few weeks ago. Go ahead and ask it. We want to answer it for you. We want to make sure that you get out there, and there are a lot of other people who are going to appreciate that you ask it as well. And then the third thing, and this is really the only payment, I guess you could say, that we ask, because these are free. We love doing them. They're a lot of fun. The only quote unquote payment that we ask is that you share the broadcast. So if you're over on Facebook, go ahead, click the like button, and then tag a friend or a family member in the comment section. Say, hey, come on over here and hang out with me for the next hour. Or click the share button and put it on your post. Put the post on your page. And then if you're on YouTube, just click the like or the subscribe button. And that really helps get the show out to more people. Of course, you found this secret here, this secret to mule and donkey training. Don't keep it a secret. Tell other people about it. What do you say, Steve? Does that sound good?
Yeah, by golly, that's a dandy.
All right,
Fire.
we'll do that. Let's go ahead and say hello to a few people. And if you've got that question queued up, go ahead and ask it there in the comment section and we'll get to it. Roger is watching from Milan, New York, 93 degrees and sunny. Eileen is watching, cloudy and 77 degrees in Nebraska today. Hope Susan gets better soon. Absolutely. We do, as do we all, Eileen. Jackie is watching from Placitas, New Mexico, 95 degrees, sunny and fairly clear skies. Jim is watching from Tampa, Florida. Normally in Alabama, but taking a few days away. 91 degrees and partly sunny. Everyone was talking about how it was raining last week. Everyone's talking about how it's sunny. We got Phil and Joe in Indiana watching. We got Horsey Girl, Julie from Kentucky, miserable, hot, and humid. That sounds like Kentucky about now. So we know she's there if that's how she's describing it. Phil says that it's hot and humid here in Indiana. Kimberly's watching from Gilbert, hot. Wyatt, my John Mule is 2.5 years old now. Let's go ahead and get to our first question. She says,
Wow.
when would you recommend I start to ride him, Steve?
Well, we have cartilages on the knees that have to be together, and you need to make sure that those are closed. There's two ways of doing it. I can usually look at them and see if the hair on the knees are straight or if it's curly. If they're curly, they're not ready to be rode. If they're straight, they're probably best they can be ridden. Now we have all this fancy stuff, so you can get your vet to play it safe. Play it safe because you got a baby there that's going to last you 30 years. Have the vet come out and do an ultrasound. How does it look? In the meantime, groundwork, 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 picking up the feet. Most important thing with a baby is picking up their feet and making sure the feet are balanced so that you'll have straight legs. That's really important. But congratulations. I'm looking forward to hearing about the first ride.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that question, Kimberly. Let's keep going on here. Michelle is watching from Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, 87 degrees. Brad and Carmen are watching in Nanton, Alberta, 71 degrees and sunny. We've gone international there. Welcome to all of our international friends. We've got Rip. Rip's watching. He says, "Oh man, he's got quite the comment here." Okay, if Rip's putting it in here, I know that this is going to be a good one to read. So I'll read it. Steve, buckle up. Here we go. Hi, Dave and Steve. It's hot and buggy just the way I like it. I've been riding only short distances, 3 to 4 miles instead of 6 to 7 hours, to pain and upcoming shoulder replacement that's been postponed 3 times. Big D has recently started showing white hairs in her bar areas. I've given thought to this issue and have decided the problem is that I'm not riding far enough to build up a sweat to lubricate the pad. Would misting her with a spray bottle before tacking up be the answer in these short rides? I always reach down and check my cinches while riding, and they are usually a little on the loose side. Given them some thought to that is the problem that I may be riding with them too loose for too long, and that's usually because I want to get somewhere, don't want to stop and mess with them. Now getting her saddled is a project in itself. She's become extremely cinchy, which is telling me she's hurting, but no problem adjusting cinches when riding. Originally thought it was her way of tricking my 66-year-old walnut-sized brain into becoming a Democrat and not going to work, but hair is now telling me differently. Steve liked that one, Rip. So any advice on getting her back to standing still? I was saddling with lead on the ground, then had to graduate to hobbles, then added some come-along rope. That did not work, just a battle. So now have been making her move around the pen, build a sweat. Let's see. It's hot and too hot and too warm outside to ride. I've moved her hitch and post. Consistent, good place for her to be. No problem approaching with the pad, putting it on. Saddle, but have not approached with the saddle until I figured out. What do you think?
Yeah, not a problem. Okay, so he rides a lot, folks, and get that in your mind. He's a rancher, so having a sore back on a mule, that is a thing that can happen. Try wearing the backpack on your back with 30 pounds for several hours at a time, several days at a time, and ask me if you've got a sore back. Yes, you're going to have it. Now, if you were at the Yosemite and you were packing for the government, they basically have you give so much rest and so many hours of riding. So what we usually do is we pack into freight into a particular place, drop off freight, and then spend the night, and then go take freight other places and spend the night. So usually, we put in 8 hours to maybe 10 hours of hard riding, leading 5 pack mules. Now, after 3 days, we were told to pretty much give them 2 days off to rest, and that's a minimum. And like at the Grand Canyon, they pretty much, it's one trip down, trip up, and then they get a couple of weeks off. That's the way it is. So it's not unusual to have a sore back. It's not unusual to have white hairs. What's white hairs? White hairs is where it's kind of a scald, and it's not a big deal. It happens all the time. You take a hot, sultry day, and Rip, we've had a couple of them days here this last week. The humidity was just crazy with how tough it was. Folks, that's the best time to get a scald on the back. To see white hairs is not unusual. Now, when do I don't want to see white hairs? I don't want to see white hairs in behind the scapula, right in the area right up above where the D ring is. I don't want to see solid white hairs there. Why is that? Because that tells me that you've over tightened the front cinch. When I see solid white, that is constant pressure. When I see salt and pepper white hairs, ain't no big deal. Matter of fact, they usually go away by the next next spring, and go away, no problem at all. But to have a sore back, not unusual there, Mr. Rip. When especially when you're riding as much as you do in this sort of thing. So give him a break. It's okay. We're good.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that question there, Rip. Really appreciate it. Let's see. Let's move right along. Judy is watching from Lazy Mountain, Alaska. 50 degrees and cloudy. My folks are up in Alaska right now, Steve. They're up in Anchorage visiting my brother. So hopefully they're enjoying the weather. 50 degrees. I think I know my mom and dad pretty well, that they're probably liking that. Hi, guys, from Colorado. Beautiful 85-degree sunny day. My first live chat with you. I've enjoyed my recent chats with Steve. Love my new saddle, although I haven't ridden Ethel yet. So there we go. Get out there, Reyes, and ride Ethel. Amy's watching, sunny and hot in North Carolina. William is watching from California, South Moki, or Smoky, California. Let's see, Stacy. There you go. Thanks, Stacy. Hey, here we go. We've gone international again. Miss Yolanda is watching. It's midnight. Dark, cold, and raining, and she's putting in the extra work out there in the Netherlands to represent the mule and donkey community out there across the seas. It's good to have you here, Yolanda. Farah is watching from Harriman, Utah, 91 and mostly sunny. Ron and Virginia from Berg Hill, Ohio, rain and storming. Good to see you again. Hey, isn't it good to be seen, Steve?
Hey, it's good to be seen.
Good to be seen. Karen is watching. Happy to see y'all live. Watching from a very warm Central Virginia. Hold on to that heat a little bit longer, Karen. It's going to get cold here soon. Christine is watching from Columbia, Tennessee. It feels like one of those 105 degrees. I said this before. The first time it feels like it's 105 degrees, it's that humidity. The first time I realized what humidity was, I was probably about 12 years old. I was in Kentucky, Paducah, Kentucky, about 2 hours north of Nashville. And my aunt says, hey, you want to earn $5? I said, sure. She goes, go out there and clean that car. And about 3 minutes into it, I was like, what is wrong with my body? I feel like there's water all over me. And that was the moment I realized humidity exists. Let's see. Ashley is watching from Southern Indiana. Good to have you here, Ashley. Sherman Johnson, Norman, Oklahoma, 92 degrees. Nancy's here. Nancy and Donkey from hot, muggy Mountain City, 82 degrees. How do I ever get my donkey where he's not so spooked? A butterfly can come in his pen, and he goes all to pieces over everything. He's jumpy. How do we get that animal not to be so spooked, Steve?
How old is he?
That's a good question. Nancy, how old is that animal? While she's answering here, I'll keep going. We'll come back to it, Nancy. Kimberly is watching. Tracy, Melville, Saskatchewan, Canada. International again, 75 degrees. While we're waiting for Nancy, Amy says, when my mini mule don't want to do what I ask him, he goes backwards. What should I do?
Okay, when he goes backwards, change your area. So he's trying to find a way to evade you. Yeah, happens all the time. So when he's starting to go backwards, you start working your way to the right, and then the left, and the right, and the left, and you change his hindquarters movement. And that'll really help. When they're short like that, it is hard to bump them because they're way down here, you're up here, so it's hard to bump them. Now, when their head's up higher, you can bump them straight down. So the mini, you're going to have to bump them, and I mean sharp too. Make his nose lose some hair. All right, because he doesn't want to do the work, and I think what they call him, a Democrat, I think it was.
Your words, your words.
Yeah, yeah, boy. Well, there are a few Democrats I know that are hardworking folks, but others, yeah. Okay, next story. Next. Here we
All
go.
right, here we go. So, hey, one thing I want to say when Steve says this, make sure you bump him hard. There are folks who are going to hear that and think, well, that's going to be cruel. Here's the deal, these are not dogs, these are not cats. These animals will kill you.
Yes,
They will put you in the hospital and they
that's
will
right.
even go as far as to kill you, knock you off, you hit your head and that's it. These are
Yeah,
not house pets. And so folks who hear that and think, "Oh, I want to be nice to them." The mule and the donkey do not communicate like a dog. They do not communicate like a human. They do not communicate like a cat. And so we encourage you to continue to listen over and over and over and ask questions. If something sounds mean to you or something sounds cruel, we want you to ask those questions because we're not mean, we're not cruel. Cruelty to a mule or a donkey is putting them out to pasture and not regulating their feed, and then they colic, and then you wind up having all sorts of health issues, or you have to put them down, or you don't care properly for their nutrition and their feed, and then it makes its way into their hooves, and now they don't have a foot anymore, and you have to put them down. So just an FYI, these are different animals than dogs and cats. They're not human, and the only thing they really want, the only thing that makes them feel great is to be left alone. Like that's ultimately what they want, is to be left alone. And so
and feed
we'll
me,
we'll get, what's that?
and feed me.
And feed me. And so
Yeah.
we'll talk more and more about that. But if you hear that and it just kind of like, piques your interest, go ahead and ask questions. We invite that. Let's see here. Mininat is watching. Minnie from Iowa here. Hot since June. No break in sight. My American Mammoth Donkey and I love our new Trail Light saddle. Trail Light saddle. What a huge difference. We're glad to hear that, Minnie. Thank you. Hey, Mark Williams is here. Steve and Dave. Mark Williams here from Virginia. I will be sending you a picture from up the mountain this past weekend. Still riding with your equipment, going on about 16 years. Everything is still good as new, even with all the miles. Love hearing that. Hey, we've got Amy Gann, Nat and Amy. Steve, hi guys. Hey there, Amy. It's good to have you here. Herman is
Awesome.
watching. Hi guys, glad to see you're back. Missed last week episode live. Live episode. Grit is the best. There we go. Watched a little Grit last week we talked about. Bob is watching. Hi guys, I'm in eastern Nebraska where it's 92 degrees and very humid. Glad that you're here, Bob. Thank you. Karen says, I have a question. We're planning to use our 4-year-old Molly, Sage, as a pack mule on a Colorado hunting trip. Sounds fun. She leads great behind my husband, 13 years old Molly, Reba. But when I try leading with her, with my 7-year-old John Mule, they keep laying their ears back and threatening each other. What do I do to help them get along better? Thank you.
Woo, he's too close to me. No, he's not. Oh yeah, he's too close to me. Get back farther away from me.
Are
I
you
can hear
listening
it
to my
now.
boys? That sounds like my boys.
That's right. Well, I can hear it now. At the Grand Canyon, old Max Johnson, head packer at the canyon there. We was going down the canyon, and all of a sudden, one of his mules squealed. Whee! And the other mule squealed. Whee! And Max says, "All right, Jody, I'll loosen up the rope and get him a little farther away from you." And he got off, hobbled his mule, went down and loosened up the rope so she'd get back a little farther away. All it is them two. One's trying to be the top of the pecking order, and the other one is trying to figure out a way so they can be the top of the pecking order. So put your come along on there, and when that mule gets too close, give him a couple jabs with that come along hitch. Look, folks, when you're starting to lead your mules, you want to lead and use that come along hitch. Everybody's getting ready for hunting season right now. I'm jealous, Dave. They've been calling me up and buying pack saddles, and they need some pack information and stuff like this. I hear this stuff all the time where the pack mule, the lead pack mule, is picking on the riding mule. So use the come along hitch, make their nose sore, and I mean make it sore. Now you may have to start on the ground to start with, but folks, Dave was talking about earlier, gee, you heard that, you sound like it's bad. No, it's ask, tell, demand. So you're going to ask by wiggling the rope, tell with a sharper bump, and then you're going to demand with a sharp reprimand. That's no different than a horse pinning her ears, asking, pinning her ears, switch her tail, telling and demanding with a spin and a kick. Hear that? A kick. So your little old bump ain't going to mean diddly compared to that kick. So that's what you have to do. And it has to be too, ma'am. It has to be your timing. Your husband's timing maybe is a little bit better. Or it could be that that mule likes that her husband's mule a little bit better too, you know. I can get into some ranch jokes right here, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I might say one just for the fun of it. Hey, Steve, that ass sure likes your ass a lot better. So, hey, it's biblical, you know. It's
This
yeah,
guy.
yeah. You get the ass jokes all the time, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, so that if you look in the Bible, you know,
It was said there
Moses and his
first.
boys jumped on their asses, you know, so it's not unusual. So there you are. I had to throw it in, but it's going to be your timing with that wiggling that rope, and it's the other thing. You got a John and a Molly. John and Molly's always seem to pick on each other, and then Molly's always want to be the top of the pecking order. It kind of sounds like my family.
Here we go. All right. Judy is watching, says Anchorage is only an hour away. Hey, you know what? Only an hour away in Alaska? That's close. That's a big state out there. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
hanging out with us, Judy. Tammy is watching from Sierra Vista, Arizona, 92 degrees. Christine says, What? What is your view on coon jumping as a sport for mules? I have a 2.5-year-old Henny who is 13 too and can get herself over a 5-foot gate. My goal is teaching her to drive, but she does not like to jump.
Huh. Well, she likes to jump when she wants to, evidently. You know, I can tell you, they flat know how to jump. And that's something we do, you know, have done out here in the mountains when we come to a fence and we throw a jacket over it. That's the cue. And then we bump them to jump over the fence. Um, and there are times if we're leading a dude or something like that, we'd cut a fence and then go ahead and mend it back when we're after that lion or after that bear, whatever. But anyway, long story short, uh, yeah, you can teach them that, but make sure you teach them a cue because these mules can jump really easy. Now, put your put your hot wire up there. Get your hot wire and put it up. They'll always come up and kind of test first and see how tall it is. And as soon as they feel that zip in the hot wire, you'll end up jumping over that fence.
Awesome. Let's see here. Shelly is watching. Hello from Suki, pronounced like Duke with an S. Oh, Sook. There we go. Sook. She got me from last time. Hey, it's in British Columbia, Canada. International again. Thank you. 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Shelly did the conversion for us Americans down here. 65 degrees Fahrenheit. We might even get rain. Good to have you here, Shelly. Albert's watching from Arkansas. Hot and more hot. Judy says, if your parents want to go mule riding while in Alaska, have them check out Alaska Horse Adventure. Great people and great Glacier View Trail. Okay, I'm making a copy of that. Thank you, Judy. I'm going to send that to my dad. Chris is watching from Sunnyvale, California. Teresa is watching from Austin, Minnesota. Humid at 81 degrees. Okay, let's go back to Nancy's question. So Nancy's original question was, how do I get my donkey where he's not so spooked? A butterfly can come into his pen and he goes all to pieces over everything. He's jumpy. He's 4 years old, Steve. What would you say?
Okay. Well, it's not that unusual to have a baby like that kind of jumpy, but here's the thing, folks. You can't desensitize them for everything. You can't do it. Put 100 butterflies in there, and you know, then later on, one butterfly will come in and kaboom. I it's sometimes it's just flat their nature to have more flight than fright, and that's the way it is. Yeah, you know, and so when we're at the Grand Canyon, for instance, when we were up there, we would kind of go through several mules to make sure we didn't have one that was jumpy like that, so that the average rider wouldn't fall off. So, can you do anything about it? No. Everybody uses the word desensitize. Well, do you have a rattlesnake to desensitize to? No. You know, do you have an elk? No. And you can go on and on and on. So the best thing you can do is is when you're working with the donkey, put the come along hitch on, and when flight and fright kicks in, bump it with the come along hitch, bump them. Okay, not that unusual.
Good. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate you being patient with us there while you get us the answer. Patty is watching. Actually, it's Joe. Joe from Ozark. Joe's watching on Patty's account. Does Joe know? Does Patty know that you're watching from her account, Joe? From Ozark Mountains, northwest of Arkansas, 94 degrees, very muggy. My mule Sam, Rainy. My mules Sam, Rainy, and Daisy are ready for cooler weather and fall riding and packing. That sounds good. Y'all are going to have so much fun when it cools down
Got a
out
bunch of
there.
packers getting out there. Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Sherman says, Steve, Sherman Johnson, how much do you water your mules on a long trailer ride, say 12 to 15-hour trip?
Well, sometimes none at all. Sometimes, yes, I'll stop and get fuel. But I tell you what I like to do, folks. I like to, when I put my mules in a trailer, and I know a lot of you are getting ready to go to Colorado now, going elk hunting. I hear a lot of it going on right now. So get yourself some electrolytes. Start doing it yesterday. Would have been way not soon enough. Start putting electrolytes in your water. Now, you're getting ready to go on a trip. You take and get you a syringe and put you some electrolytes in their mouth. That'll make them thirsty. All right. And then they'll want to drink. Here's the downside. You got several mules in there. There's no way you can get in there and give them all water without taking them out. And you don't want to take them out. I can tell you some horror stories of people who took their mules out to give them a break. Took them way too long to try to get them back in. And some got broke loose and got hit by cars and horrible stories like that. But so don't do that. When you got them all stacked in there, usually you can stop at a fairgrounds, and you can have small corrals that you can put them in and this sort of thing. But otherwise, I usually, be honest with you, I try not to do much more than 8 hours. 6 hours is usually a pretty good average as my travel time.
Very good. All right. Yolanda's here. She says
Uh-oh.
Yolanda's been sharing. Yolanda's got some things going on out there. So she's holding down the unofficial Mule Ranch Netherlands chapter. So she's here with an update. Well, we just dropped in with a major problem. My mule is out of office for a long time. She got hurt from an old injury I did not even know about. 2 nights ago, I found her in her stall with a swollen right hind pastern, and I mean swollen. So today I took her to the equine hospital, 2-hour drive with an upset, screaming her heart out mule. At the clinic, an ultrasound was taken, and it's bad. Turns out her pastern is inflamed. She suffers from tendon sheet inflammation, upper and deeper flexor tendon irritation, ring binder damage with old thick scar tissue, fiber damage, and bursa irritation. Yes, I know it's a lot going on. The vet said that the best option was an operation to cut the ring bone, and my hair rose to high mountain range because here they have no experience with mules whatsoever, and they want to treat her like a horse. Next option, rest for at least a year. No work, running, bucking, jumping up and down, basically small paddock confinement. My mule was going haywire on the moment I loaded her back up in the trailer and started screaming like she was being killed, and kept screaming all the way back home. Never ever experienced that before. So now what to do? Because she is real hot-headed mule, and how do you keep this at ease for a whole year? So she's out there. She knows just about as much as anyone could about her animal there, Steve.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing. You have any thoughts, not just for Yolanda, but for any folks out there who are having issues with their animal just not being in good health?
Yeah. Yolanda, did you have a pre-purchased exam done on your mule before you purchased it? She can put that note on there. Now, while she's putting that note down there, listen, folks, this is extremely, extremely important. You've got ring bone. Ring bone is very, very prevalent in a mule and a donkey. And that's basically at the pastern, at the hairline, that all starts getting hard. And the mule can't break over good. And when he does break over good, sometimes you get the heavy swelling, this sort of thing in the pasture. Now I'm no veterinarian by any means. I've had to learn a lot here on this ranch and being out in the middle of nowhere. How can I fix it? Okay, so um, you don't have any sound there, partner.
Sorry, she said she did not have one.
All right. All right. So now look, I have a favorite fix that I like to use when I get bowed tendons, when I get pasturing swelled up and this sort of thing. And that is what I do is I take a real, I take some shears first. If that's possible, you can do that. You'll have to, I usually twitch them if they're going to be a problem. But I usually clean all the hair off of the area. And then I come in with some absorbing. And put your gloves on because that absorbing is going to flat burn your hide, all right? You take that absorbing and you rub it into that area, and I mean rub, 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 rub. That's why I like to have somebody on a twitch up front so that it will kind of give her some relaxation because she's not going to feel very good, okay? And let me back up a little bit before this. We've got, I lost the name of it. I call it the mule ibuprofen. It'll come to me here in just a minute. Anyway, I usually give that to them first, and you about 10 cc tablet, and let them start relaxing. Usually what I do is I pull the tongue out of the way. I shove the pill down through the back of the tongue so that they have to swallow it because mules can't throw up. And so I put that bute. That's what it is, bute. Okay, everybody should have bute in their trailer, in their barn. Everybody should have it. Now you can do it with a paste, which doesn't do as good. They'll spit a lot of it out. My favorite thing is the tablet that you can get from your veterinarian. And usually what I do is I get in there, pull the tongue out. I take the tablet, hold it between my fingers like this. I shove it back behind the throat and drop it off, and they do just fine. Now, give them the bute. That relaxes them. That's also a muscle relaxant as well, all right? And again, folks, I mean, get your veterinarian to do this. I'm not a veterinarian, but when you're in the middle of nowhere, this is what you learn. So go back. I take the absorbine and I rub it on there really good. Wear gloves. Rub it in there really good. And then I take cellophane and I wrap it, that sandwich cellophane, this sort of thing, and I wrap it tight with about 4 good wraps, real tight. And then I take I lost all kinds of names right now. Vet wrap, okay? And you wrap that thing good and snug all the way up. And that is what that's going to do is create a polis. And folks, it's real easy to bow a tendon. You can get a high bow, middle bow, low bow, really easy to do. So this is the perfect thing that I like to use to be able to take that down. That means no riding, none, okay? Because it can get real bad. Now, what she's got there, unfortunately, is some damage from prior damage that pops its ugly head back up again. And it's not always the seller's fault, folks. To me, if you're selling a mule, you better know about mules. Unfortunately, the majority of people do not. So it's really easy to bow a tendon. It's really easy to create problems. So simple little things like this helps you to doctor yourself when you're way away from everybody and everything. Otherwise, usually your vets will do a good job. So let's go back. This is, folks, mules are big money right now. Bigger money than I've ever seen in my life. I've heard of some mules going for $60,000, $70,000. And that's the same as 60 or 70 cents to me. But anyway, let's go on. And they spend a lot of money for these mules. I know about one guy that he went up to Red Bluff, bought himself a mule. He had drank a little too much of that moonshine, got out, climbed on that mule. That mule bucked him off. He hit the pavement. When he took the mule home, he put it out in the pasture, and it's been there ever since. Now, let's go on. Anytime you are going to purchase a mule, number one thing, pre-purchase exam. And not just to look to see if his eyes are clear and his nose is clear. Not that. Pre-purchase exam. You're getting ready to spend $10,000 for a mule, hypothetical figures, any figure really. You want to make sure that mule is sound. So many people buy mules and at an auction, and they buy that mule, and then they put a story on it, and then you bought it. Because now some little 10-year-old girl was riding that mule around, and you thought, well, if that kid can ride, I can ride. No. Okay, let's go back. Number one thing, pre-purchase exam. Ring bone is extremely prevalent in mules. So when you have your vet do a pre-purchase exam, he's got to run a complete test on the ring bone. All right. The next thing you want to do, which very few vets pay attention to, especially on mules, now listen up, is do all your x-rays on that scapula and make sure we don't have damage on the scapula. Now, we got a vet that had wrote us a letter, Dale, about Dale, and he saw that there was a little spur on Dale's mule, which was caused by ill-fitting saddles. And Dale had spent good money for that mule, got himself bucked off and hurt a couple times, and that's the worst part. But when this veterinarian finally took a picture of the scapula and said, right there is your problem, there it is. All right, pre-purchase exam, extremely important. You don't buy that mule if you don't get a pre-purchase exam. Now, there's another one that she also mentioned, and I just lost the name of it again. It'll come to me in a second. Anyway, what you do, it's a flexor tendon. Flexor tendon test. Extremely important, okay? Now, Jolanda has a flexor tendon problem as well. Now, I'll go back to that in a minute. So now, they do a flexor tendon test. And what that is, they have you on the lead rope. The veterinarian brings the back leg up as high as he can go. You know, we've never touched on any of this stuff, Dave. This is all new ground here. Now, the folks, you need to listen to this. Yeah, this is important, okay? You bring that leg way up, and they hold that leg up, and he does it. He watches his watch or counts to 60, sometimes 3 minutes. It depends, but usually 60 seconds. And then he drops that foot, and you take off running with it. Usually you get a young kid on that. Okay, go do that. So anyway, here's the deal. What happens is he can watch that leg moving to see if the flexor tendon has a problem. All right. Now, here, let's go back. This can happen from a real wet, muddy paddock where the donkey or the mule and horses slip. And when they slip, you all know what it's like to slip and fall, you know, on slick, icy areas. Everybody that's in that country has felt it at one time, lose fitting. Well, bang, flexor tendon takes a big, long stretch, okay? Or they get hung up in wire, which is not too much more likely. But anyway, there's tests that vet needs to do in order for you to have a sound animal. Now, let's go back to Rip, okay? To take and to palpate a back right after they've been ridden is like you and I wearing a pack outfit for 2-3 days in a row, 30 pounds, and then tell yourself you don't have a sore back. You will have sore muscles. But on a mule, okay, this is important. You've got the hip. Okay, picture this as the hip right here going over to the back, going up to the neck and the ears. right in here, you have 3 vertebrae that usually stick up right in here, in this area. Look around that area. It's right where the back of your saddle is going to be, right at the cantle, right where the skirting's in the back. Okay? Right there. Look in that area and see if it is swollen. If it is swollen, now we got a problem. Because usually what happens is we're riding saddles that are stitched up in the back, bringing the 2 skirts together. If you notice, all of my saddles are open in the back for that reason, so it doesn't rub those mules that have that vertebrae. It doesn't rub them. Not all the mules have it that prevalent. It's there because of the donkey influence, okay? And so it's there. So you need to be aware of that, but never palpate one after you come back from a ride. No. After 5 days of rest, yes. Okay, so now the vet has to look at ring bone and get pictures of that and look that over good. All 4 feet. Now, next part, scapula. Get pictures of that scapula all the way across. Final part, right in the back, where those 3 vertebrae are sticking out, what's that like? That's some of your main pictures, I would say to you, on a pre-purchase exam that's got to be done. Now, the old-timey vets that I knew, shoot, it was nothing for them to throw a rope on a leg and throw the horse on the ground, and that's why they did it. You know, first time I ever saw that, I thought, look at that. But they can do that. You know, that was an old-timey vet, an old-timey shoer. Throw them on the ground, we can get the job done. So let's go back. Folks, when you're going to purchase an animal, you need to look from the top of their ears to the bottom of their feet, tip of their nose, tip of their tail. Not because some little 10-year-old girl is riding a mule back and forth, or there's 2 kids standing up on it doing this, okay? No. If they are truly trained in a 10-foot circle, you will see that mule side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up lightly, all within a 10-foot circle. That tells me they're trained. Crossing water tells me they got good disposition. Okay? 2 kids standing on their back tells me they got a good disposition. It does not tell me they are trained. So, and then next thing here, folks, when your vet is looking, and this is the last thing for the vet, and you're sure it can do a good job of this too, but how bad is the foot contracted? Really, really important. You got no foot, you got no mule. And I can go on and on and on, but Dave, I'm going to leave it right here because this is kind of some uncharted ground that we've never talked about. Flexor tendons, I've talked about some things, but this is how-tos, and this is really important.
Like I said earlier on in the show, there's a lot of things that we talk about from week to week to week. And then occasionally we get into conversations where, hey, we've never talked about this. So a couple thoughts. First and foremost, Yolanda, thank you for messaging in and giving us a chance to talk about this. Folks, if you're going through something with your animal, gosh, you don't have to go through it alone. Of course, Yolanda's in the Netherlands, and there are not many mules or donkeys out there. And so we're really grateful that she found us here on this show because you don't have to go through this stuff by yourself. So thank you, Yolanda. If you're going through something with your animals, please let us know how we can help. When it comes to purchasing your animal, a lot of times folks will think about, I'm going to buy the animal and it's going to be this much. And, I don't want to spend this extra money to pay a vet to come out and whatever. You're going to be on the hook for who knows how many tens of thousands of dollars when you purchase this animal. Spend the extra money. Get the vet to come out there and look. I put a link in the comments section to an article that Steve put together about how to buy a mule on Craigslist or at auction. And it's kind of a little bit of a bait and switch. So go check that out. But folks will ask Steve all the time, is this a good mule? Well, we don't know. We haven't been around that mule. We haven't seen that mule. We haven't worked with that mule. It's almost impossible. It is impossible to know whether a mule's going to be good unless you've worked with it, seen it, done everything that you want to do with it. personally. So in that article, there's some tips to help you, and one of those is to get a vet check. So we'll keep talking about this. It'll come up more and more and more, I'm sure. But be here for when we talk about these things so you don't go through. They could be pretty emotional. You don't have to go through it all by yourself. So thank you, Steve. Well, let's keep moving on here. Trinity is watching. Thanks for the advice last week with our bridling problem. Took almost 30 minutes to get him to hold his head down and tip towards me and get the come-along rope over his ears. Did 3 good ones and quit. Went out last night, did 6 times with no fight at all. We'll continue to work, but just wanted to say thanks. We love hearing that. Thank you, Trinity. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Stacy says, you crack me up, Steve. Steve is quite the jokester, and we're all grateful for those jokes. Bonnie's watching in Indiana, hot and humid, in Hocking Hills, Ohio. Indian, hot and humid. Just got back from Indiana. Just got back from Hocking Hills, Ohio. Glad I had my mule Millie, not a horse. Christine, y'all are putting me through the ringer here today. Christine says, love Steve, miss him. Well, you got him right here. Christine, you got him right here. Mike is watching hot and humid in Deming. Christine says, loves to jump. She will jump, muck, bucket. So we were talking about that earlier. Let's see. O'Shane says, So O'Shane, if we can illuminate you at all, please let me know. Let's see here. Let's see. Scrolling right along. Eileen says, oh no, is ring bone distress the same as on a horse? Is the mule or donkey pastern design similar as a horse, Steve?
Exactly the same pastern. Exactly the same, folks. The biggest difference is the way that hoof is. You know, you got a smaller hoof with the mule than you do the horse. And folks, listen, ring bone is very prevalent, very prevalent. And it can be from going on hard pavement to being on a lot of hard rocks and pounding, running, you know. You see on the TV, it's one of the downsides of grit. is you always see them trot off. They never just walk off. They always run off, you know. Well, that's pretty tough on them animals' feet, you know, front end and stuff, you know. That it is. Hey, I got a question for you. Phil and Joe, is that Zimmerman that I heard in there? I heard Phil and Joe in there someplace, and
yeah, I did say it.
And the beginning.
Let me see if I can find it here. I'm scrolling back up. Let's see here.
I've got a Phil and Joe Zimmerman that they're old mule.
Yeah, Phil Zimmerman, hot and humid here. Phil and Joe in Indiana.
Hope they're listening. And folks, this is important for all of you. We've been missing each other on the phone and stuff. And listen, I would love to say that you call me and I'm going to pick the phone up right there. It's not going to happen. This ain't no kidding. 50, 60 phone calls a day. I was just looking at my list here. I've done 45 different phone calls today, okay? Plus text, plus email. So now here, Phil and Joe had their old horse pass away. And their old mule buddy out there in the pasture now has been just flat sorrowful, big and heavy. And it's heavy on your hearts when you see that. Doggone it, you know, pasture mate dies. But here's the thing. Mules are extremely subservient to horses, you know, and that's their buddy. That's the one they look at is the herd leader. Guess what? You're now going to have to get in there and take his place. Oh, I'm going to buy another one to take his place. Well, that's good. Buy another mule. I go for that idea. But here's what happens. When people buy, I've seen people buy a goat. I've seen them buy a Shetland pony or something so they have a pasture mate. Now they can't go anywhere without that pasture mate. I mean, they blow a fit. You hear some of the stories of them running up and down fence lines, jumping over fence, yada, yada. So it's tough hearing that mule and seeing mope around and stuff. I've seen it. Joe and Phil, my heart goes out to you. But this is time for you to get your brush out. Go tie the mule on a hitching post. Brush him down. He says 30-some years old, I think it was. Brush him down, this sort of thing. And, of course, I kind of like potato chips. And mules are like potato chips. You can't eat just one, you know. So buy a bunch of mules, you know. Then you got to buy mule saddles. Yeah, okay. So there it is, Phil and Joe. I'm sorry we didn't get together. We missed each other. We played some phone tag. And, folks, look, I always get wit to you. I'll call you. I sometimes will even do it on a Saturday and Sunday, but it's rare. I like to have Saturdays and Sundays with my family and this sort of thing. But I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to call you. I'm going to visit with you. I'm going to try to help you out. But Phil and Joe, I'm sorry to hear about your loss of your horse. If you got some questions, give it to Dave here, and I'll answer it for you on top of it. But now's a good time for you to be the herd leader, to be the buddy. Take your mule out, brush them, take them for a little walk.
Yeah, and on that note, Queen Valley Mule Ranch is a family run business, and so it's pretty much Steve and Susan, and then me and a couple people who work with me just to do the website and a little bit of the emails and things like that. But it's a small operation, and Steve likes it that way. That's the way we like it. That's the way we keep it. Everything's made in America. It's everything that you like about America and the spirit of America and the family working hard together. And so one of those things is that as more and more folks start hearing about the mules and donkeys, they find Steve, and I'm making good sure of that. They find Steve. And so a lot of the times we'll get messages come in to support@muleranch.com, and I can answer a large majority of those messages. I know where to point you, and I know what to tell you. And occasionally there will be something where I was like, well, I need to double check with Steve on this, and then I'll get back to you. So if you're having a hard time getting a hold of Steve and you haven't tried sending a message in to me yet at support@muleranch.com, do that, because more often than not, I'll know where the videos are at, and I'll point you to YouTube. I know where the articles are, and you know what? I can even answer some questions too. Just you saying, here's a problem that I've got. I've heard Steve talk enough to know what the answer is going to be. We'll make sure that you get the answer that you need. It just may take a little bit longer sometimes, but if you're willing to bear with us there, we'll make sure that you get exactly what you need. Dan Davis is watching. Says they're having a mule rodeo, and they have a list of events. Could you describe these events? Events include hoofball, hide ride, keyhole, mule jump, musical rings, and monkey in a tree. Now, see, is he making a joke, or is that a real thing? Because I'm not from this world right here.
Well, it's a fun day. Some folks would call it a rodeo. I suppose it could turn that way, but okay, they give it some unique names, and every club has a different name. Keyhole usually means you run your mule into a 5-foot circle or an 8-foot circle, and there's one area that's open. So you run in there, stop your mule. You're supposed to turn on the hindquarters, turn around, and go back the other way. Most of them, you see people, because the mule is not trained, they turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, and that sort of thing. So here it is. You go in, you roll on the hindquarters, that's turn on the hindquarters, and go back out. That's what they want to see. But a lot of folks look like they're trying to drive a Mack truck around that circle. The other one, the hoof ball, I think it is, they usually take a big ball that's a big blow-up ball, and everybody gets in there. It's a ball to do it, Oh, it's fun. Or take a broom and hit it, things like this, and kick it around. Usually they use their hooves and kick it around. Some of the other things I'm not familiar with, but people make up some certain things. The one that's kind of fun, they call it the pantyhose run. Okay, back when people used to, girls, I think they wear pantyhose back then. They'd have to hold on to one leg, the other person have to hold on to another leg, and they have to go down and run around the barrel and come back. So I don't know what all those are, those different ones, but there's a couple that I do know. Have fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Let's see here. David is watching, says, what should I do to start a mule off with a saddle?
Yeah. Ground communication. Folks, everybody wants to see in the saddle. Forget that. All right. I'll never forget when I was in Brazil in 2008, International Equus, and I was invited there to go there and do some mule demonstrations. I climbed on a young horse that was 3 years old that was getting ready to go into international shows, worth just thousands of dollars. I climbed on this little bitty saddle, these English saddle things, and rode that horse, and that horse side passed. He did pirouettes. I mean, it was amazing to see this horse ride. And I looked at this guy. I says, "This is an amazingly trained horse." And the guy says, "Yes, you did a very good job of riding him. You're the fourth rider that's been on his back." What he told me, he says, "We do all of our training on the ground before we climb in the saddle. If we didn't do a good job on the groundwork and the horse does not do correctly, we should not be in the saddle." You hear that, folks? Turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, stop, back up, everything on the ground before you climb in the saddle. Yes. So get your groundwork done. It's a good time to, get them to step over things. And, the big thing is that come along hitch, they have respect for it. Now, we were talking about grit. Matter of fact, I was just looking at Eric from Mountain Ridge Gear. Thank you. And he actually had his donkey with no halter on it, with the bridle tied to the trailer. You don't see that very often, okay? And if you come out to my ranch, you'll see the come-along hitch on a mule, the come-along hitch laying on the ground. The mule has so much respect for that come-along hitch, he knows if he moves, his nose is going to be sore. I go walk in 10 feet, get my brushes out, brush them down, pick up all the feet. The rope is still on the ground. I go in, I get my blanket out, I throw it on. Rope is still on the ground, not tied. I get my saddle, I put it on, stitch it all up. Rope is still on the ground. You got the idea, folks? That is called halter finish work, halter trained. Okay? A halter is not just to tie them up or lead them from A to B. For 6 months, folks, you should be using that come along hitch everywhere you go. Everything that you do, that come along hitch is going to be the one to give you timing, like the lady with the mule, the pack mule that's wanting to pester. Okay, it's her timing. It gives you timing with the mule, and you get crisp, clean communication. Okay, so before saddling, ground communication.
You have a few more questions here. This one was emailed in from Bobby Carroll. And the question is, I need advice. My 3-year-old Jack got with my 1-year-old Jennie. I was too late to get them apart, and he bred her. What, if anything, should I do?
Nothing. Just let him have that little baby, and here you go, bouncing around. It's going to be fun,
There you go. Why would somebody have a concern about that at all?
Oh, they don't want to maybe have a baby to raise around and this sort of thing. They're pretty simple to do. Donkeys are so easy to take care of, but I wouldn't worry about it. Just them donkeys are not only a lot of fun. You can't have just one, but they sell for big money too.
Very good. Let's see here. Christine messaged, I just received my mule ground training box today. My 2.5-year-old Henny I rescued last September. She was wild and never touched. She has progressed, but is really quick to bolt. Any comments there for Christine?
Well, there again, Christine, you should be in a small area at 20 by 20, maybe a 50-foot round pen, because you've got a 22-foot rope there. And you better have your gloves on, because my come-along hitch is waxed as well and can burn you pretty good. It's your timing, folks. It comes down when you're riding, just like you're driving your car. If you look to the right, what happens is your car tends to go to the right. And therefore, we've got a rumble strip that tells you, hey, you're getting ready to go off the curb. Same thing with going over the white line. We got some little things that makes it rumble. And on my wife's car, she's got these little deals set up that when you do go right or left, it not only makes noise, but it straightens it up. That's a different thing. So let's go back. It's your timing. So the split second that nose goes to the right, fix it. Fix it while it's small before it becomes blown up, gone. It's too late. It's mule skiing. So start from the nose. Hey, David says we lost connection.
Can you see me?
I think we lost connection with you. Oh, there we are. You're back again. Lost connection for a split second there.
We're here.
Okay, by the way, remember how I was kind of having some problems with my connections?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they come out and put a brand new cable from the telephone post to the house because they said
Ah,
I got some broken places around there someplace,
that makes sense. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
all brand new.
All brand new. Very
Yep.
good.
Other questions. Here we go.
So I think so. I had a message here sent in from Phil and Joe. Actually, the way it showed up inside of my email was Phil Joe. So I think it was Phil and Joe talking about the quarter horse that passed away. That's who we were talking to earlier. Okay. So
Yes, yeah,
anything else you want to say about that? Because I want to make sure to let them know if they didn't watch that we talked about it.
sure. You bet. And then if they got some other questions, hey, go ahead and call me and I'll get back to you. Always call, always leave a message, folks. Just don't call and say, okay, I'll call until I get him. Well, you'll be there for a couple of years because I have to take and have certain time set to one side to call you back or to try to text. And Dave knows how much I hate typing and texting. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. If y'all see me asking for a phone number, it's because it's just a lot easier to get on the phone and to talk sometimes. So
yeah.
that's what it is. We want to help you. Okay, so we talked about that there. Let's see if we can wrap up here. Steve, are you going to be at the Ozark Mule Days on Labor Day weekend in Springfield, Missouri?
I was going to be. Okay. Matter of fact, I wanted to go there and watch my granddaughter Nat um, compete and this sort of thing. And I was going to go with Randy Figgins, the ranch manager over at the Andrada, and we was going to bring back some mules and this sort of thing. But with my wife having COVID, I put myself on a 14-day quarantine. Now, Dave knows, and most of you know that I'm a firefighter here in Queen Valley and I don't want to infect anybody else. And it would be kind of toward the end there. Don't want to take any chances. I've been tested. I'm negative. I've had the Moderna shot. I've had the both two-part because I wanted to protect people and this sort of thing. I don't know much about it. I hear all kinds of thises or that's, but you know what? Back when I was a kid, you had smallpox and polio. And I guess, according to people I've talked to, nobody wanted to get that smallpox and polio shot. So I don't know, folks. What I can tell you is I've talked to a very good friend of mine and client that is in the business, works for one of the major pharmaceuticals in the world. And he is one of 100 that does this type of work. And basically, what he does is he freezes this stuff. It's a crystal. So if you've ever given any kind of shots or immunizations or anything, you know that you have two valves. One is got fluid, and the other one has got the meds in it. You take the fluid out in your syringe, and then you put it into the valve that has the frozen crystals, and it turns into a fluid, and then you give your vaccines. Okay, and that's what he does. And basically, he told his own mom to do it. And I don't want to get into a whole bunch of this stuff, folks. I don't. I know it can be a terrible thought in a lot of ways, but I can tell you my wife right now is doing good. She's coughing. She's had a low fever, but she's still eating. And I kid with folks all the time. I say she only hits me twice a day now, where she used to hit me 4 times a day. Hey, stupid, did you listen to me? Nah, 54 years. I love that woman. So, no, I wish I could be there. I really do. Randy and I were going to climb on his truck Sunday, and we were going to drive that way. But, folks, I'm not going to take any chances. I don't mind wearing my N95s and my gloves when I'm on scene, but I don't wear my N95s and gloves around all of you all when I want to hug you and things like this. So, anyway, much as I don't want to, I'm going to pass.
Yeah. Son and I were just kind of when Isaiah got ill. He just kind of sound like me. I don't know if y'all can tell. I'm a little congested here. I'm not feeling my best today. And my oldest 9-year-old was feeling the same way back on Monday. And so we made the decision. I said, it's not signs of COVID, anything like that, but at their school, they're not mandating that the kids wear the masks. And so I said, you know what? They're not mandating that kids wear the masks. We're going to go ahead and just be extra cautious. We'll hold them out until we get a negative result, and then we'll take them back. It's not what we wanted to do, but I'm just so tired of this COVID thing, and I'm so excited that so much has been done so far, and it'll be
Yeah.
great to see how we all come up out of this, however long it takes. But it's really great to be able to connect with folks over the internet here. That's been
Yeah.
fantastic. Steve, do you have a few more minutes? We're a little bit over
You
4,
bet.
but
No,
we
that's fine. Let's
got a few
go.
more
Keep on
questions.
going. It's
Okay,
been great.
Stringhalt. Can anything be done for that? What is Stringhalt, and can anything be done for it?
Okay, it's similar to some of Jolinda's problem. Stringhalt means the tendon has been pulled and the back leg comes up and kind of jerks and then goes back down. He can walk a little bit and then it jerk a little bit and come back down. Just like in Jolinda's part, yes, they go in and they cut tendons, and that's what they would do to fix that. And would I ride that animal after that? Look. When you're going down the side of a mountain, you want all four legs knowing what they're doing. Okay, and Stringhalt, unfortunately, it happens. You can get slick mud, and the same thing with having some of these other things that we were talking about with Jolinda, and slick ice, different things that can happen and develop that. Unfortunately, it's either going to be a pasture ornament, okay, because it's quite expensive to do it, but there's no guarantee, folks. Unfortunately, there's no guarantee. Would I be riding that animal? Not me personally. It don't take much more to ride a good one than it does one that's already sore. So either make it a pasture ornament, and I know a lot of folks ain't gonna like this, but I've cowboyed all my life, all right, and I feel sorry for these animals. I personally would put it down rather than see what's going to happen in the future, because it is not pretty, folks. I've tried to save some favorite animals of mine, and it's awful. Okay, and I know they got a lot of new stuff now. Talk to your vet, spend time with them, and this sort of thing. But think of your animal. That's my thoughts.
Let's see here. Yolanda asks, Steve, is how much difference is there between the Cowboy saddle and the Trail Lite saddle when it comes to weight?
Well, the Cowboy is 28 pounds. The Trail Lite is 18 pounds, so 10 pounds difference.
10 pounds. There you go. Phil Zimmerman says, no worries. Thanks for the advice. We're spending lots more time with Lucy these days, so that's great. Hey, Trace Mulio is here from windy Queensland, Australia. Late, but made it. Lucky I can
Hey,
rewatch.
Tracy.
Glad to have you here, Trace. Let's see. Brady says, Delta. With all the COVID talk, it said Delta, and I was like, is this a comment about the Delta variant? No, Delta, Colorado. It's hot. Could you explain the Arizona cinch on a pack saddle?
Okay. Arizona cinch is an awesome cinch for a pack saddle to keep it balanced. Normally, you know how I talk about the rear cinch, most important for you riders. When it comes down to riding with a sawbuck saddle, and not a Decker, okay, but a sawbuck saddle, each one of the D-rings usually has a cinch coming down. Well, what I've done is I've got a wide pad and long, and it's roughly, what was it, 36 inches, I think it is, by about 12. And the straps come up, snap into the ring, and then at the bottom there's buckles. So here's the great thing about it. When you got a real loose saddle, you have to either try to get up underneath there to tighten them cinches, or do like I do with this. And this reminds me, Dave, we need to do a video on this so people can see that Arizona cinch being used. You reach underneath there, pull it up to buckle it off, and you're done with it. It's a wonderful thing for a pack outfit to balance it out. So usually we take and put rocks on different sides too to balance it. But if it gets real loose, because a lot of these mules have had some poor saddling and they've over cinched them at one place. That's, folks, if you want a mule to move around a lot, then cinch it all up tight in one spot, which I didn't think about Rip. I don't know if Rip would do that or not. But look, folks, when you cinch, pull it up snug where the cinch hits the belly. Then take them around in a circle, pull it up tight one more time, the back one only. Take it, go around one more circle, now the back one and the front one, and now you're done. Don't try to tighten the cinch all at one time with the animal standing still. Tighten it in stages. Okay, other questions, Dave?
All right, we're almost done here. Minnie says, I have a 10-month-old miniature donkey, and I've taught her manners leading and off lead when we are in the round pen. But last weekend, I discovered that when I walk the pasture, she engages with me as if I'm her donkey playmate. So now I'm working on manners while I'm in the pasture. Any suggestions on teaching my 10-month-old donk good manners while I'm in the pasture?
Well, it's a little bit tough because they're small, But here's the thing: don't want to smack them in the head. Don't want to smack them in the neck. What I usually do, if they come into my space and I don't have a halter on them, I'll take my boot and I'll tap them in the shin. Or if I get a chance, if I can kick some dirt toward them or something like that, that'll make them stop. But otherwise, using that come along hitch tells them this is correct and here's not. Now here's the problem: making you a playmate. That's not good, because when they bite you on your legs to make you go faster or to move you around, that doesn't feel good, and they will do it. Okay, don't think, oh, it's so cute, he's coming up sniffing my leg. No, he's getting ready to figure out where he wants to bite. Okay, and here's what happens in the wild: jacks, to get a Jennie to slow down, or if they want to fight another jack, they'll actually bite them in the tendons so that they can't go so fast, and then they can control them.
All right, there we go on that one. Just about done here. Hey, Linda the Mule Servant and Theo the Sweet One-Eyed Mule, live from stormy rural central Ohio. Good to have you here, Linda. Tell Theo hello from us. She says, Steve, I've never heard you give such detail about using the come-along hitch to signal obedience. I will sure be moving to this level with Theo right away. Good to hear that there. Christine says 20 by 20 dry lot and 40-foot round pen. So that's about what we want, right?
Yeah. You want a 50-foot would be about what I'd like to have, unless I'm working with donkeys. Then 30-foot would be about right,
Let's see here. Jim from Western Maryland is watching. 81 degrees and humid. Sam says, how common are stifle or hock issues in mules? And what do you recommend to address them? I got PRP done in her stifles, and I'm considering Adequan for her hocks, concerned about working her with pain. So I'm not sure what those things mean, Steve.
Well, having both of them, flexor tendon problems, is tough enough. But there again, folks, listen, there's no particular drug that I have seen that works good to where you got the animal usable. When they've got flexor tendon problems and they've got problems in their hocks, you're better off not riding them, because when you hit the ground with a 1,000-pound animal on top of you, been there, done that. It does not feel good. Listen, folks, ride a well animal. Okay? Now, yeah, if you got a pasture buddy that you've had for years, I understand. Believe me, I've had them, and I've doctored them all the way through and done it because I love the animals. But when it gets too bad, I'd rather put my animal down than have them cause them any more pain. And they don't show it, Dave, like we do.
Jerry says, hi from Fort Benton. Just want to let you know my mule Louie loves his new saddle. When we ride, he shows me he is happy by his relaxed floppy ears. There you go. That's awesome. Let's see here. I'm looking along. My mule servant, this mule servant is registered, this is Linda, registered respiratory therapist. I can't give individual medical advice, but I can give lots of information about respiratory health, vaccine, and COVID. It's an important topic, and good info can save lives. So everyone, please feel free to give out my contact info for this purpose. Thank you, Linda.
Wow.
Let's see here. Trace says, Cinch Hobble. Have you got one you sell? Can I use baling twine?
Yeah, I use more baling twine than anything else. A Cinch Hobble basically is a way to keep the cinches from being too far apart. And me, I've used lots of nylon string. I've used leather too, and I send out every time somebody buys cinches from me, I send out leather. Personally, with me, I ride so much that the salt from the mule's body and this sort of thing, and the long hours actually rots that leather. So I like to use more than anything else a good nylon twine and make myself up a nice rope to hold them to. You want your cinches to be 4 to 6 inches apart.
Reggie's watching from North Dakota, overcast and nice temps. Minnie says, great info, thank you. And Mark says, thanks for the show from sunny Anza, California. There we go, Steve. That's everything. We went a little bit long today, but I thought it was important to get through everything.
Yeah.
Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If there's anything else you want to talk about, be sure and send us a message, support at muleranch.com. You can go to muleranch.com, find a whole bunch of great articles, videos. The majority of all of the information on there is free. Of course, there's some instructional videos that you can purchase if you need, but we do our best to make sure that what you need you can find on the site. And when you want to go deeper, that's when there's some different products you can purchase. But would invite you to go check out muleranch.com. Hope that you'll come here and hang out with us next week. Same time, 3 o'clock Pacific time. And I think that's 3 o'clock Pacific time. What time is that? I don't know. It's another time in a different time zone. Steve, anything you want to say?
No, buddy, but I tell you what, folks, we need to be praying for this United States. We need to pray for our leaders and this sort of thing. The Bible is very explicit about that. You pray for your leaders, and I do pray for them. I pray for their salvation, that they get saved in the name of Jesus, and we'll go on from there. Listen, God has his hand on his people, so I don't let it bother me. It's no big deal. I've got a God that supports his love to us.
Yeah. Yeah. The victory's already won. We just got to walk in it. Thank you so
Amen.
much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Yep. Amen. Bye-bye.